I agree, fundamentalism is bad. I think we're pretty much all agreed on that. But you didn't really answer the question of why fundamentalists turn on this country specifically as a target.
Because they hate this country, and they hate our allies, and they hate the West. And if you don't believe me, listen. At least do them the decency of listening to what they say themselves. Read the Hamas Charter. Read what Mr. Bin Laden says. Read what the Muslim Brotherhood would do in this country. Read it and believe them.
Davina McCall.
Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am V. Thank you for checking out this video. Today we're going to be seeing quite a different video on the channel, and the title of this one is School's Question Time, and it has a bunch of people on the channel, including Ed Miliband, Douglas Murray, and Saida Wasi. I'm super inquisitive, so let's get right into this video and see what this is all about.
Our first question tonight. Tom Johnson, please.
Has the UK become a terrorist target because of its culture or because of the actions of its government abroad?
Douglas Murray.
Well, I'd first of all say absolutely not to do with our actions abroad, but put that in with one rider. If it were the case that because of our foreign policy people think they have the right to blow up people going to nightclubs and to blow up those fleeing from the first blast, as seems to be the case, then I'd say you have a choice in front of you, much like the choice we had a few weeks ago over whether or not Britain, the British state, has the right to decide who gets knighthoods, or whether crowds in Pakistan who burn books they can't read have that right. And we have the same choice now, which is whether or not British foreign policy will be run by the British government in the interests of the British state, which I think is the case, or whether or not we just allow other people who let off bombs here or in Baghdad or anyone else who want to terrorise us, whether we allow them to run our foreign policy. That's the choice before us.
But what's your answer to the question? The cause of the terrorism?
The answer is that the cause of the terror is Islamist fundamentalism, which is a version of Islam, a politicized version of Islam, which is wreaking havoc across the globe and has been doing so for many years, and which was aiming to attack this country and our allies before the invasion of Iraq, before the invasion of Afghanistan, and indeed even before 9/11. That is the truth.
Okay. Saida Wasi.
I think that there can never be any justification for the use of violence against civilians, and I think we need to make that point very clear, and I'm sure all of you in this room would agree with me on that. But there are two separate issues that you asked. Is the culture issue that you raised. I think there is a concern about culture in this country. I think that it's a concern about what it means for us to be a British people today, and whether we're comfortable about our identities. And certainly my role as Minister for Community Cohesion, I will be looking at ways in which we as British people have ease within each other rather than feeling uncomfortable, which I understand that some communities are. In terms of foreign policy, I think it's quite right for us to raise legitimate concerns about our foreign policy, but I don't think it's right to make that link then to say, well, because of that, people have the right to come and wreak violence in our country.
But hang on, nobody was... you promoted yourself to minister. I think you meant shadow minister.
Shadow minister.
Yes, not quite there yet, no. A little way to go. But the question was whether we're a target because of the actions of the government, not whether that legitimizes terrorism. Isn't that right, Tom Johnson? Where's Tom Johnson? Yes.
Yeah, and I'd say to Douglas, I mean, I agree, fundamentalism is bad. I think we're pretty much all agreed on that. But you didn't really answer the question of why fundamentalists turn on this country specifically as a target.
Because they hate this country, and they hate our allies, and they hate the West. And if you don't believe me, listen. At least do them the decency of listening to what they say themselves. Read the Hamas Charter. Read what Mr. Bin Laden says. Read what the Muslim Brotherhood would do in this country. Read it and believe them.
Davina McCall. Hold on, I'll come to you in a moment. Davina.
Well, as a sort of non-political person, I would have to say that I feel that that's twaddle, because actually... I haven't read the Hamas Charter, and I wouldn't imagine many people here have, but it does seem that hate breeds hate. And our foreign policy has been to go into countries that aren't waging war with us and going completely and
Afghanistan?
Yes, no, but Afghanistan itself as a country did not wage war with us.
No, it allowed terrorists to breed
No,
there, as
but
did Mr.
that's
Hussein.
not waging war with us. That's something
Terrorists
completely
not
different.
breed.
No, I'm sorry.
They train. A state which allows training camps, from which training camps they come and attack us in our cities in London, New York, and Washington. That matters.
How would you feel about diplomacy? Or is that a swear word in your book? Wouldn't it be better, rather than just going and sort of bombing everybody, and our foreign policy, being a complete laughingstock? Well, there is jihad as well, but surely it's hate breeding hate. And at some point, somebody's got to turn around and say, come on, let's all sort of say...
All right, the woman in green there.
I think we have to look at the issue of where does fundamentalism come from. I mean, throughout history, it's always been shown that wherever there's poverty, and basically we've waded into Iraq and Afghanistan and desecrated their homeland and ruined their lives. So no wonder they're turning to these options, because we've taken away their livelihood.
So you think it's the war?
Absolutely.
All right, Charlie Bell.
I have to admit, I'm amazed that this hadn't already come up on the panel. The problem with fundamentalism is not simply some people wanting to hurt us because that's the way they're made. I think we are in some way responsible for the way that these people are acting. The culture of this country is a great culture, but we are going across to other nations and we are portraying ourselves as America's sort of very weird ally. And but we're going in there and trying to promote our way of freedom, which isn't what they agree with, and we're promoting it in such a vile way that they are looking back and saying, this isn't what we want. Why would we want to have a democratic state like this? We've got to give people options, and we've got to look at the causes of the fundamentalists and not just go, oh, they're breeding in Afghanistan.
All right.
Who's making that
Okay. Ed Miliband, we're promoting our freedom in a way that, in effect, stirs up terrorism against this country.
I don't agree with that, David. Look, I find it very hard to get into the minds of people who would willingly blow up a whole set of people at Glasgow Airport and at a nightclub in London. And when you read about what the leaders of Al-Qaeda stand for, it is an extremist ideology, which it's not about Western values, it's a whole set of values of freedom and tolerance and liberty that they're against. Now, having said that, it is the case that they use conflicts, like in Iraq, like the situation in the Middle East, to recruit people to their cause. Now, what's the duty on us, the British government? It seems to me the duty on us is to say this is not a clash of civilizations. This is not about different faiths against each other, or different races against each other, or different religions against each other. It is about saying that we care about people around the world and the fairness and justice around the world, whether in the Middle East or elsewhere. And that means that we must step up our efforts on diplomacy in the Middle East and elsewhere. Because we need, in order to win people's hearts and minds, I think, we need to show that we stand for a set of values that all reasonable people can unite behind.
But do you agree, to come to the nub of the question, do you agree with the Joint Intelligence Committee that the conflict in Iraq exacerbated the threat from international terrorism and reinforced, I quote them, the determination of terrorists to attack the West?
Yes.
Are they saying that's in Iraq?
Yes.
Well, look, there's no
do you agree with that?
Well, yeah, there is no question that in Iraq itself, lots of terrorists are now there, and there are sectarian conflicts in Iraq, and that is posing a threat to British troops.
Sorry, by the conflict in Iraq, we must mean the invasion of Iraq by the Americans and the British forces, mustn't we?
Well, Iraq has become a centre of terrorism and a centre of conflict.
As a result of that action, do you think?
Well, not as a result of the action, but...
centre of that before.
Look, it has become a place where there is a big war on terrorism being waged. Now, the question for us, I think, is we've established a set of obligations to the Iraqi people by being there. Now, you could say, well, let's just get out immediately. I don't think that would be the right thing to do, personally, because I think having gone in there and being there now at the behest of the Iraqi government, we have a set of obligations we have to fulfil to them.
That isn't quite the question. The question was about causation, not about what you do now. The person in white there, the man in the white T-shirt. You, sir. Yes, fire away.
Hi, well, surely it's a bit of both. I mean, without a doubt, Iraq and Afghanistan have exacerbated the problem, but 9/11 happened before any of it. There was obviously hatred and resentment against Western civilization before Iraq or Afghanistan. Look at the embassy bombings in Africa. There were terrorist attacks happened before.
Were there attacks on Britain before
No, there weren't. But if you want to look, if you say that we're so closely tied up with America, then surely kind of our policies and theirs, but it works together.
Okay, the woman at the back there, on the two away from the gangway. You.
Do you think withdrawing troops from wherever all around the world now is going to resolve anything at the moment if you just bring them back out? Do you not think the damage has already been done? Do you not think that if we are going to withdraw them, then we should have withdrawn them before we started?
Do you think they should now be withdrawn? Is that your view?
No, I don't know exactly what to do. I think if we take everyone out now, then it's just going to kick off again. But if we don't, then what are we going to get ourselves into?
The man in the second row here, you, sir. Yep.
Are British troops in Iraq there for military reasons? Because there's only 5,000 of them, and I don't think they can fight against 100,000 or 150,000 Mahdi army people. I don't think they're there for military reasons.
Well, first of all, we're there for as long as the Iraqi government wants us to be there, which is until the area that they're in is secure, and I think we have to abide by that obligation. Two things. First of all, Ms. McCall referred to that not having read the Hamas Charter. If you are going to comment on this, you could at least do the people who desire to kill you the decency of trusting their word. And I can tell you that if the people who are attempting to bomb London and Glasgow and are currently wreaking havoc in Baghdad and across the world, if they had their way, I can assure you your own career wouldn't be going the way it is. You wouldn't be the woman you are. You wouldn't be allowed to do what you do in this country. That is the same, and that is the same for everyone in this room. And you should not be, and you should not take that for granted. And one other thing, I should just add to that. There's been a lot of cynicism in this room about this already tonight. But our troops in Iraq did not only go into Iraq for one reason. The people of Iraq had been living under a totalitarian dictatorship for decades, and many people thought that that was our fault. We get blamed when we intervene and when we don't. It was the same in the Balkans. We get blamed when we intervene and when we don't. If you...
Okay, Douglas. All right. Davina McCall.
I agree that there was a dictatorship in Iraq before we went in, but this dictator, although he was an extremely bad man, did seem to hold the country together in some way. That now that we've gone in, there is complete civil war in the country.
But the question is about terrorism in Britain
yes,
and the cause of it.
The cause was that it has been exacerbated by our foreign policy, and what we need now is a quick withdrawal from Iraq to settle it down, quickly withdraw, and I would like a public inquiry, please.
I do want to come back. I think I have to take issue with a lot of what Douglas has to say, because we can look at the cause of it, or we can actually say this is a problem that we have here right now, like Ed has said, and how are we going to move forward? And I think the use of the language that you use, Douglas, actually makes it worse, and it makes communities in this country. It makes communities in this country feel as if somehow they're outside the big tent of Britain, and that creates more resentment, which creates bad community cohesion, which means we will never win the hearts and minds to defeat terrorism.
Were you opposed to the war?
Yes, I was.
You were, and remain? I mean, you still feel it was a mistake?
My views about the war are very, very clear, and I think it was a mistake.
And you agree that attacks on our troops are absolutely reprehensible?
No, I don't. Douglas, you know, you kind of make these links.
Ed Miliband.
Ed
Miliband, Davina McCall says there should be an inquiry into why the war happened. Do you think there should be an inquiry?
I think there will come a time when we need to find a way of learning lessons, not, in my view, when the troops are still there, because I think the concentration has to be on the work the troops are doing to actually train the Iraqi army, to the gentleman who asked the question, in order that they can patrol Iraq as best they can.
OK, I'll take one more point here and move on to another question. You say yes, with the spectacles.
How do you expect to win the hearts and minds of the Iraqi people and people across the world when it's come out today that one of the main reasons Australia went to war in Iraq was for oil?
No, that hasn't come out today. That hasn't come out today, sir. The war was not about oil. If it were, we wouldn't have spent all these billions of dollars in lives and blood and treasure. It was not done for oil. We could have got oil by doing a deal with Saddam, like Monsieur Chirac did.
OK, let's move on.
Guys, that was really a heated one there. Douglas Murray is, like, if you look at his face, you see that he's not smiling. Douglas Murray is a very tough man when it comes to such arguments as this. He is of the opinion that whether or not they are involved in this, they are still going to get cover for it, and others were trying to say that they've been going through dictatorship, and even in as much as we're going through dictatorship, they were still able to handle problems like this. Okay, I like how the room was open and everyone was throwing questions at the guess they are there. Nice one. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and see you guys in my next video. Bye.